3 months living with the Suzuki Jimny, the 5-door version, the Suzuki Jimny XL. In this video, I'm going to talk about ownership, pros and cons, everything that you might need to know if you're tossing up buying a Suzuki Jimny. I'm going to talk about the exterior, the interior, the performance, the handling, the things I like, things I don't like, and maybe some issues that I've had with the car. So to start with, the exterior of this car is something that drew me to it the most. I love circle headlights on any vehicle ever, like motorbikes, cafe races, things like that. I love just old styling when it comes to vehicles. I feel like it's a lot more timeless compared to the sleek headlights that you get in a car, because I feel like those kind of styles age pretty fast. In the next 10 years or even 15, 20 years, you can tell that it's aged. But with this car, it looks old, but it's a modern car. So I feel like this will age a lot better than a lot of the newer cars out there. I also love the small package that this car comes in. It's a very compact car. If you tee it up against a Mazda 2, it's pretty much the same size, if not smaller in terms of length. I love the old school gutter rails that come on the roof for mounting roof racks and roof platforms. And I feel like they're a lot sturdier compared to like the rails that come on newer cars that are just riveted on. I like a structural point of attachment for my platforms. Although this car is only rated to 30 kilos up top, it can handle a lot more than that. I feel like Suzuki just says that so that they can cover themselves in case of any insurances if someone happens to roll their car or something like that. Personally, I have loaded about 70 kilos total on top of my car, and I've driven about 200 kilometers each way, and it has performed fine. I've had my tent up there, my mattress, camp chairs, and maybe some tools up there. That's with the 26 kilogram platform, so that's about 70 kilos all up. And it feels like it has a little bit more body roll on corners, but it's just something that you have to work around. And after a while, about halfway into the trip, I found like I wasn't even thinking about it. Like I just got used to it. And also with the paint on the exterior, I find it's quite durable compared to my old car, which was a Mazda BT50. That car got scratched and dented so easily. And this car has had a few dings here and there, but it didn't even make a mark. And it's maybe because it's a smaller car, there's less chance of it getting hit in car parks from other people parking next to you. And the exterior of this car is something that I'll always love, and there's just more that it can be improved on with little mods to make it yours. But all in all, the exterior is probably a 9 out of 10 for this car. The only thing that I don't like about the exterior of this car is the wheel arch makes up half of the rear door, and it does come with 2 seals, but I can imagine leaks coming through if you're not careful, or dust comes in pretty easily. And a way around that I've imagined in my head is to screw a hard piece of plastic to the underside of the fender to give it an extra barrier of protection against external debris that might come through the seals. The chrome grille that comes from factory. When I bought this car, I painted it on the first day within like 2 hours of having my car, because I knew deep in my heart that I did not want those chrome squares in front of my car, and I got rid of them ASAP. That was the first thing I did on my car. Now with the interior, the car comes with cloth seats. You can't even get leather seats as an option. The airbags are built into the seats, so you can't even really get covers. They do make covers, but I haven't really looked into it that much because I don't want to impede on the airbags. And the interior of this car is all hard plastic, as you can see. It's all just hard plastic. There's like no cushioning at all. Like on this door handle here, it's just hard plastic. And I might get like a little bit of padding and just stick it down or something. And sometimes it hurts my elbow. I've got skinny elbows. Sometimes it hurts my elbows on like a long drive or something, but you get used to it. The car comes with these accessory holes all throughout so that you can mount little things to make it really yours. I have mounted a quad lock phone holder on the right side here. I've mounted a little hook on the left here for the passenger to hang little bags of groceries, takeaway food and whatnot, small things. And I've also mounted my Leatherman Wave to the passenger grab handle. I do wish, however, that there was a oh shit handle for the driver here, just to help with me getting out. But usually I just reach out and grab my roof rack when I get out. Now, in terms of storage inside the car, the doors come with little door cards on the front. There are 2 cup holders here, but I've also bought the tray that every Jimny owner has down here next to the gear stick, and one on top of the dash, just to hold little trinkets that I need. I've also got 2 little trays that I've bought from Bunnings that go under the seats. One tray is for all the straps that I need to tie stuff to the roof, and another tray is just for like a mini jump starter and maybe like a picnic rug or something. Everything in this car is pretty damn sturdy. It's a cheap car, but it's made well, and that's the main selling point for me. The instrument cluster is very simple but effective. It tells you what you need to know at a glance, and it's got a screen in the middle between the 2 dials to tell you the fuel economy, cruise control settings, and little warnings that might come up. It's perfect. It's just a little bit of everything, but not too much. It's just the most minimalistic car you can get, but it comes standard with safety features that aren't too intrusive. With my old car, it would always auto brake too soon, or it would always pull me back into the lane when I was trying to turn, or there was like a weird sort of shaped road where it's sort of, you got to veer off and there's lines that confuse the computer. This car doesn't pull you in, it just warns you that you're departing from the lane, but it doesn't intrude on your driving. And that's a big point for me. A car that's not too intrusive but has its capability of keeping you safe. The one gripe I have with this interior is the 4 buttons at the front. 2 do the windows and 1 does traction control off and hill descent. I wish the 4 buttons at the front did the windows so that I could press them all at once to control all the windows in the car, as opposed to reaching down to press the 2 rear window buttons, which is in between the center console next to the handbrake. With the infotainment system on this car, it comes with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and it's a lot more responsive compared to my old car. And the best thing about having a key for me is sometimes I want to just turn off the car but leave the music on. I can just click it once and it just leaves the radio on without having to do the push button, and I can leave the car on playing music without having to turn off the car, press it again to load up the radio, and wait for my phone to connect like I did with my old car. In the back, we also have the ISOFIX points for the baby seats. Because as someone who takes the baby seat in and out often, it helps with not having to feed the seatbelt through the baby seat and click it in. Whereas with this, you just click the ISOFIX points in, clip in the back tether attachment, and you're ready to go. Because this is such a small cabin, the aircon is pretty effective, despite only having 4 vents at the front. There's no vents at the back for aircon. And I've had passengers at the back saying they feel completely fine on a hot day. And I've found that this aircon is pretty reliable and effective. Now with the sound system, it's pretty average. If you crank the volume up and there's some heavy bass, it'll start distorting, but that can be easily upgraded. And as you can see, I've got some pretty good headroom in here. Also with the back, I have some pretty good headroom as well. I'm 180 centimeters, pretty much 6 foot tall, and I fit in the back pretty comfortably. The only bad thing about the rear seats is the headrest. It doesn't hold your head very well, and my partner has complained that her neck's been getting sore on some longer drives. Now with the performance of the engine of this car, it's a 1.5 litre petrol engine. It is pretty weak, so when it comes to driving this car, you have to be in the right gear selection. My car's a manual, and it's always about the right gear selection. On the highway, the car can get a little bit loud in terms of wind and engine noise, and I've heard people having to veer lanes because the wind pushes their Jimny around so easily, but I haven't had that issue. With this car, because it's such a small engine, momentum is the key when you're going around corners and driving in traffic. You sort of have to predict when a traffic light might turn green or red and sort of drive accordingly to that. You'd probably have to do this in every car, but trying to keep the car rolling as opposed to stopping and starting is the biggest point when it comes to driving this car effectively. And if you come from a turbo diesel truck, pretty much, you have to get used to revving this engine, sometimes to even redline. If you're going up a hill, you'll notice the revs start dropping. And to work your way around that, all you have to simply do is downshift to 4th gear or even 3rd gear. If you're passing someone at highway speeds, you have to chuck it in 3rd gear and pretty much rev it to red line and then chuck it into 4th and then get past them and then keep on cruising. But that's the fun part about this car. Like, you have to rev the crap out of it and it can take it. It's a revvy little engine and it's made for it. Now, the suspension that comes with this car is very soft and bouncy. On some turns faster than say 60 kilometers an hour, you'll start to feel some body roll. But I've taken some turns in this car at 100 k's an hour in the country roads and it handles fine. And obviously I haven't flipped my car or anything, and that's with load on top. And if you grab the roof rack, as you can see, and shake the car, you don't have to put much effort in to shake the entire car. You just got to get used to leaning like this on some turns, and it's pretty funny, and it's easily upgradable with a lift kit or maybe some stiffer shocks and springs, which I'm looking at down the line, and maybe some wider tires. And speaking of tires, the ones that come with this car are pretty capable. I've taken this car off-road and I've gotten to some rocky inclines that I didn't film, by the way, because it was just too much of a hassle to run back down the hill to get my camera. But it has handled those inclines just fine. All you have to do is chuck it into low range. I did it with stock tire pressure and it did it fine. My mind was blown. And because this car has a slightly longer wheelbase than the 3-door Jimny, I imagine it would feel a lot more planted on the highway, which it does. It doesn't feel like a shaky little car on the freeway at 100 k's an hour, even 110. People sort of exaggerate and they say it's got poor handling on road, but it's probably because those people are comparing this car to like a small 2-door sports car. And because this is a small car, it brakes pretty good. The only time I'd see braking being an issue is if you're towing something, but if you're towing anything more than 350 kilos in this car, you need to have a braked trailer anyways. And anytime you're driving a trailer, no matter what car you have, you sort of have to adjust your driving style for that anyways. The boot space is pretty small. I do manage to fit all my tools in there. I have built a little shelf for my boot to fit all the small little niggly things that go in my boot, and I can keep them organized, and I can have about 90 kilos of tools on top. I do wish, however, that the boot was maybe 100 mil deeper, because I used to have a Milwaukee pack out system that I used for work, but I can't use that. But I can't use that anymore because simply the box doesn't fit, so I just stopped using my Milwaukee pack out system. With the boot, if you're parking on an angle and you want to open your door, sometimes the door will get pulled back down by gravity, like it'll pull closed and you're trying to stand awkwardly holding the door open with your back. I don't really know a way around that, but I have seen that they make some extended struts so that you can open your door fully to 90 degrees, because this boot door only opens to about 80 degrees or something just shy of 90. Now, this car does have a pretty low GVM, and you'd probably have to look at getting it upgraded if you're going to be bolting on a lot of four-wheel drive mods like bull bars, rock sliders, rear bars, winches and all that, but I'm not really looking at that, because to have this car for daily driving, I don't think I need a bull bar and all that stuff. I'm only going to take it off-road probably a couple times a year, and I'm not going to look at doing anything super serious with that, and I don't want to impede on my fuel economy too much. Another thing to mention with this suspension is it sort of sags on the driver's side from factory, and I think it's a common issue with Jimnys, but that again can also be easily fixed with a suspension upgrade. And in terms of fuel economy, I get about 400 kilometers to the tank, which is a 40-litre tank. I get about 400 kilometers until the light comes on, and the light comes on with about 8 litres remaining in the tank. So if you calculate that 32 litres, 400 kilometers, it comes out to about 8 litres per 100 kilometers, or about 12.5 kilometers per litre. Now, with issues when it comes to the car itself, sometimes I have issues putting it into reverse. I don't know if that's because once I was at highway speeds, I was in 5th gear, and out of just muscle memory, I put it into 6, like where 6 would usually be, and it sort of grind, and it sort of made this loud grinding noise in reverse. And I think that's my fault, but sometimes it has some trouble clicking into reverse. Just have to like clutch in and out and then reverse, and it will click in. And then with first gear, it will sometimes make this weird noise upon takeoff and letting go of the clutch. But it's not like a bad noise, but I think it's a noise in the transfer case of the drivetrain of this car. And I think Suzuki have issued like an official bulletin notice thing saying that there's a chain tensioner or something in the drive shaft or in the transfer case somewhere that makes a noise, and that's normal. Now, did the car come with any issues from factory? The door seals on the 2 front doors had like white calcium deposits all over the rubber, the black rubber, and they said they'd cover that by warranty, but I've sort of scrubbed most of it off. Apparently it just got rained on real hard during shipping, and I imagine seawater or whatever must have just affected it. Like, apparently it was the only parts of the car that hadn't been covered in plastic and they got affected, but that's going to be covered under warranty, so I don't really care too much about that. Even if it wasn't covered by warranty, I don't really care. And the tires from factory, they were inflated to 40 psi, but the tire pressure on the Jimny is meant to be around 26 to 28, if not 30 psi. This car keeps up with traffic fine. I'm a heavy-footed driver, so I'm always taking off pretty fast and going through the gears pretty fast, and usually 90% of the time I'm ahead of traffic, and I still get pretty good fuel economy. The reverse camera in this car is pretty lackluster. The camera itself is located down below the rear wheel above the number plate, and you can't really see much, but there are some markings on the actual camera itself to show you where the car is, and I found that it's been completely fine. And because this is such a small car, it's really easy to just do a head check and just see where your car is, and it's easy to navigate this car. So yeah, thanks for watching my video. That is 3 months living with the Suzuki Jimny. I plan to keep this for at least 10 years so I can give this car to my son when he's 18. Hopefully I won't regret it. But all in all, I love this car and I'm going to try keep it to the day it dies.